Namaste. Welcome to Smriti. We have Raghuram Garu back again. We are in episode 4, speaking on yoga and Vedanta. I've been asking him questions, and he gracefully is such a great storyteller, but he really is giving us a great message, which is very essential for us all. In the last episode, the question was, what is Vedanta? And very elaborately, in very simple language, he walked us through a lot of information, and which are like gems. If you really hold on to that, you are already done your yoga for that moment. So it was very nice. Thank you. Continuing on the Vedanta Sara, the essence, I would like to know although you integrated yoga and Vedanta very well, but I just wanted to see, in your words, travel with you post Vedanta era. You already mentioned Upanishads, Puranas and Itihasas. Let's go to that journey before we go to the current times. Thank you, Raghuram Garu.
Thank you. In fact, as I said last time, the example that there are some people who had the quest, and that quest has given rise to all these Upanishads. And then, very interestingly, that the people that who had that quest and inquired into, when you look at all these Upanishads, they're all children. Whether you take the Nachiketa is a child, and Dhruva is a child, and everybody is a child. It's so fascinating to see that children have that kind of a question. So therefore, basically, that in the history, then you can imagine, the sculpture, there were several people who were having that kind of an experience, going through that experience. Not only that people who had that experience, but then they were living with that experience their day-to-day life. They had brought that in their daily life, that kind of an experience, which for ordinary people, it is something which is extraordinary. In fact, that's exactly the question that Krishna brings about in Bhagavad Gita. He says that in the second chapter, he says, somebody who is having that divine prajna, that divine kind of an awareness, how is he going to be like? Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha, samadhi tasya keshava, sthita dihi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. How that person who has that ultimate realization and living in this world. And a very important question there, aspect of the question is that how is he going to live, in the sense that there are 3 important points that he says. How, by all himself, how is he going to be? In interaction, how he behaves. Or when something comes out of him, what kind of gems come out of him? And when you look at that, these are the 3 aspects of anybody's life. So that means it is an ordinary person's life compared to somebody who is in that state of Sthita Prajna. And Krishna's answer also very beautiful. He never brings about all kinds of mystic kind of thing. A lot of things people create that idea that self-realization is like a mystic kind of a thing. Your Ajna Chakra opened, or Sahasrara is opened, or maybe you find a golden aura, all nonsense things, and then this fellow can walk on the water. None of those things are there. It's in the day-to-day life, how you behave, that's what is given. And the answer also follows, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthak manogatan atmanyeva atmanatushta. It goes on like that. The whole idea is that he is so full in himself, he is so satisfied within himself, and he is full of that joy, that element is there in his face. These are the things. So there are some people in this culture who lived like that. Extraordinary kind of a life, and their very life itself is a message. When somebody lived like that, extraordinary way, under most difficult situations, and if he lived like that, we just don't want to allow them to go in the history books. We want to bring them out of the history so that they belong to the culture all the time. We get guidance from them. If I say that 6,000 years ago there was somebody who was living like that, then you might question that today, how can it be useful? That's why we say that he might have lived 6,000 years ago, but he does not belong to 6,000 years ago. He belongs to today. He might have lived in a place called Ayodhya in the North India, but he lives in every place that in our hearts, wherever we are. Not only in India, But you see that in Bali, Indonesia, Malaysia, and this side, Iran, people talk about him. And that's what is Rama. So therefore, these are the things, whatever that history is there, Itihasa, and from that Itihasa, we have taken up these characters and made them to live, walk through our own way of life. These are called as the Itihasa Purana. Purana means from the ancient time that they have come, but they are not dead, they are ever living. Every place belongs to them. In fact, I have a Telugu friend in Atlanta, and then he's so fond of Telugu language, and particularly Bhagavad Gita is like close to his heart. And then there is one Telugu singer by name Ghantasala. He rendered Bhagavad Gita so divine way. So every time he meets me, he says, Raghuram Garu, you have read so much in the scriptures and so many things that you know, so details you know. Give me one assurance that Krishna in the battlefield said Bhagavad Gita like the way Ghantasala said it. That satisfies him. So we own these people. We don't disown them. So these are the people. So we have such an extraordinary, wonderful literature. We created that. Second thing is that we say there's various powers. You see, in fact, in Yoga Vasishta yesterday, while I was talking, I was telling that we call it as power. Power seems to be very neutral, whereas in Sanskrit we have a word called as Shakti. You know, the moment that you say Shakti, it is a woman. It is somebody who has that compassion, at the same time who has the tenacity and who has the grit and all those things that are there. I mean, all those qualities that he gives in that. So for us, power is not a power, it is Shakti. So therefore, we create a human being around that and then created the whole story behind it. And that story we create to convey the message of extraordinary, wonderful journey of spirituality. This is what we call it as Puranas. So we have abundance of Puranas, abundance of these things. And it is only the Western mind which thinks of that this is one era, this is second era, this is third era. There was nothing like that. It was just flow of this culture that is there. In this flow of culture, all those things are there. Not only that, in fact, what happens is that there is particular message that an incident, fascinating kind of an incident he narrates. Then you can also add some more additional incidents on that to see that the message is enriched. Like, let me give a very small little example, like, and how beautifully it enriches the whole thing. That there is nothing like Lakshman Rekha. In the original Ramayana, there is nothing like Lakshman Rekha. That means Lakshmana says that Sita, don't cross that because it's dangerous. Not only actually Lakshmana said, if you go to the original Ramayana, it is said by several people. Rishyashringa said that, and afterwards Aditya, author, he also said that. Like that, several people have already said it. In spite of it, he said that, you know what, you might leave this place thinking of doing something good, but that itself can become a problem for you. And Lakshmana said that and went away. And then Sita came out. For who? For what sake? Because there is a Brahmin came and asked for the alms, for the food, and then she came out and gave the food. And in the process, she get caught up. See, just to enhance this particular idea, that they have introduced what is called a Lakshman Rekha. So, like this, there are several things that are there. Like somebody who has devoted to Rama's extraordinary, wonderful work. Everybody is working for Rama. Then there is a small little squirrel. He said, I will also do it. So he went to the river, he went to the ocean, wet himself, and then took out sand, he rolled in the sand struck him, and then he left the sand on the bridge. Rama, when he looked at it, he said, what is this you are doing? You're walking up and down and all those things. Then the squirrel said, everybody is doing whatever that contribution. Let me also do my little contribution. When monkeys can do it, when bear can do it, I can do it. Then Rama took that in his hand. You see, look at the beauty of it. See, this is what you enhance the whole value of the story. Rama did not just say that, okay, all right, lifelong you will have food that you want. You don't have to search for your fruit and everything. It's not like that. He just picked up that squirrel and then run his compassionate fingers on top of it. That became like the streaks on the on the squirrel, and for the whole squirrel species has been taken care of by Rama. You see, what a wonderful feeling that you get out of it. So we have all these Puranas, we have all these stories that are there. They're all to convey this message of that there is a extraordinary, wonderful power or extraordinary, wonderful divinity that's there, which is guiding all of us. So, because of these Puranas, this whole culture survived. We have such wonderful examples of that. Now, even in this Puranas also, that now in order to create that Purana, to create that kind of an image of a particular this thing, then there are saints who came and gave us various praises for them and then stotras for them. Like you see that Ganesha has so many stotras, Hanuman has so many stotras and all that. So all these things will make this particular culture so rich in its own values to go towards the spirituality. Now, these are all the people that they also followed yoga. That's why when you look at whether it is Ganesha Stuti or Subramanya Stuti or whether you look at Shiva Stuti, you always have this chakra aspect of it, this prana aspect of it, all those things are described there. That means all these people, they were actually the people following yoga, experiences, meditation, and therefore that they are recognized. So it is not just only the Puranas that are important, but every character gives an idea that there is a lot of yoga involved in these things. So that's why in the Puranas and Vedas and Upanishads and also Itihasa, together with that, the yoga texts that are there, they're all interlinked together. We get the message of yoga. And now, one important point I thought saying that there's only one source for the whole creation that is there. This is what our idea is. And that source from which everything has come up, we call it as Brahman. So there's only one source. When Brahman does not mean that there is any particular person or anything like that. Brahati Brahman, that which includes everything. There cannot be anything outside that, we call it as Brahman. That's all. Personification is the way that we recognize that. But then there's Brahman, there's only one, and everything comes out of it is the basic idea of Advaita. There are not two things. Now, but the normal experience is that we are two, therefore interaction takes place. We are many, therefore interaction takes place. So for interaction purposes, we require two. Therefore, Dvaita Siddhanta has come. Dvaita Siddhanta is that it is not just two. I respect you. I respect you so much that I seek your comfort, your happiness. So this was the culture that they have created. That's why Dvaita Siddhanta has come on. But then Shankara gave us that idea that, wow, we are not separate. We are all one together. That's why we have that example where that he meets one Chandala and he hugs him because you are not separate from me. So that Advaita Vedanta. But then people who had that experience, who gave this propounding ideas, like whether it is Shankara or Madhva, they never had any differences. They were okay with that. But then people who are later on following, they started fighting. They created that my philosophy is better than your philosophy. So therefore the books have come, Advaita Khandana. Somebody has written Advaita Khandana. So it just goes on multiplying. Looking at all those things, then Ramanuja came up and said, why are you fighting? You are talking about the same thing. And then he gave a very beautiful idea, and which is very practical idea. He said that in the normal transaction, yes, we are two. You are different, I am different. And the teacher is different, student is different. But under special circumstances, we are one. And a simple, ordinary example that I'm thinking about, that you have some satsang at your place and then somebody has left a car on the way and, parked a car. And then the police fellow or somebody comes in and says that, somebody's Toyota car is sitting there. Is it that white? Yeah, it's our car. Everybody there says it's our car. That means to say Advaita feeling is there. But who has the key? There is one person who has the key, goes and parks the car right way. So this means to say, under special circumstances, we are one, and that is a feeling that we are one. I give you one small little example and stop it there. When I was in long time, earlier days when you were all traveling in the first plane, hardly used to see Indian faces once you come out of India to Frankfurt, where we have to change the flight. So I was there looking around various other. Suddenly, I came across in one small kiosk a ghazal from Jagjit Singh. When I heard that Jagjit Singh ghazal, without even my knowledge, my feet drew me toward that place. Because there were time, I just listened to that music. And somebody from inside came a while, Bhai Sahab, welcome here. I think you are from India. I said, yeah, I'm from India. And then I was looking at who is that person. Then I found out there's somebody who's sitting there in the darkness there. He said, which part of India are you coming from? He asked me. I said, I'm from Bangalore. I mean, he thought I'm Bombay. I said, no, I'm Bangalore. Yeah, people in Bangalore also listen to ghazals and all that. Then I asked him, which part of India are you coming from? He said, nice, sir, I'm from Karachi, Pakistan. And then he gave an answer which is beautiful. He said, 1947 made us separate. Otherwise, you and me, we're all the same. You see, that Advaita Bhavana is there. This is what Ramanuja said. Normally, we are in Advaita Sthiti. That means to say, I respect you, you respect me. But under special circumstances, we have an Advaita Sthiti within us. That's why it is called as Visishta Advaita. So, but then now, three people are fighting. See, people, unless until they take it as a part of their own experience, journey towards experience, then these differences will be there, fighting will be there. Let's rise above that level. Thank you, Satya.
Thank you so much, Raghuram Garu. We shall continue on the topic of yoga and Vedanta. Thank you all for visiting SMRITI. Namaste.